DevOps iterations.
And here we are, another iteration with Riaan Nolan, who is the author of HashiQube and a wonderful person. I'm so glad to have you here, Riaan. First of all, how are you and what are you doing in these days?
Alessandro, man, it is so good to see you again. Apologies for my appearance. I've got my singlet. The last day of 2024, a kid on a scooter rode into my arm and it fractured my arm. So apologies for my appearance, but nevertheless, it's so good to see you. And I'm in Australia at the moment. And where are you? Where are you at the moment?
Still in Italy, always in Italy.
The best. The very best, Italy.
Okay. So, what are you doing in terms of working in these times?
So currently, I'm working for Wenco, which is mining operations, and we are automating trucks, big trucks like Scania or Hitachi diggers, and we put hardware onto these trucks or these diggers, and it's automating mines. And so I'm the DevOps tech lead for them. That's what I do from a day to day. Sometimes after hours, I'm a Hashicorp ambassador and I do Hashicorp stuff. I still teach people Terraform and I run the Hashicorp user group here in Brisbane. And that's what I do from in a personal and professional capacity.
Okay. So we talked up to now without problems. Now that we started to record, we have some problems with the recording, I guess, some breaks in the audio. I hope things will sort out well. Because I heard you with some interruptions. Anyway, no, it's not you. It's the recording, I guess, network or things. Also, the distance. I mean, we are on the other side of the world, and it's so wonderful
After
that we
all,
can talk like this from so far. So you are quite involved with Hashicorp, the products, the ecosystem, and everything. So the obvious question is, have you seen some difference in the behavior and the usage when there has been this change of license, and so the fork of Terraform and the other tools?
so from a day to day, I've not seen really very much of a change. I did see a little bit of a change with regards to, there are new tools like TENV, and there are now TerraGrant and some people or OpenTofu that wants to install these tools as well. And so with some people, because I used to be a consultant before I worked here, so some people would rather pin to a particular version, not sure where to go or where HashiCube is going. But from my perspective, as a consultant using infrastructure as code, not very many changes, to tell you the truth. Zero changes. Um, and I don't really use OpenTofu yet. I mean, I used to use TerraGrant, very nice. I like TerraGrant, very, very nice. But, so from a day to day for me, not very much changes. I suppose the only changes if you are using Terraform to compete and you are making money on Terraform, then of course you have a license. It is very much the same as Docker Desktop. There's a license with it. Everything has a license these days, Azure DevOps, Lucid Charts, Jira, Confluence, Windows, Docker. They all have licenses. It's not something that is really new, you know. So, but from a day to
Yeah,
day, for me,
indeed. in some way, the innocence of the good old open source days is lost, probably in these times. The spirit of open source is somehow been diluted, also because of the abuse, I guess. Because yeah, it's a long story and a long discussion, I guess, about these things. But I guess
Y-
also who does an open source product and has other companies using the product without giving anything back, and on top of that, offering competitive services to you. So I
You
guess
know,
it's
if you are a big company, like a let's say a government department or an enterprise, if you're using open source, I think it's actually maybe a little bit of a risk, because you have no support.
well,
There is no support from Hashicorp. So if you have a problem, you will write maybe your own vault providers or secret engines, you cannot get support from them. Which I think if you are enterprise client, maybe is better to get enterprise support. Protect your business. If you want support, like with AWS, if you just use the AWS, but if you want support, you must subscribe to the support, pay a little bit extra, and then if you have a problem with RDS or something, you get quicker reply. So it's the way of the world. We cannot change it. We cannot stop it.
yeah, makes sense. If you make money out of this and your business relies on these tools, it makes sense to have a support dedicated for them.
Yes.
So, in terms of, let's say, code changes and difference between, for example, OpenTofu and Terraform, maybe now let's say, the fork is too early to see big changes, but are there already some incompatibilities, or more or less?
So yeah, I think OpenTofu has got some very nice features like the encrypted state, which they rolled out. And there were some other things as well. The difference in the registry was maybe a bit painful for people. The registry changes where the address of the registry changed. I'm not sure how where this will go. It's a big job to support this such a big ecosystem. It's very much a big job to support it. But I think, I mean, I like what they are doing, Open Tofu, and they are free to do it. They are free to fork because that is the license, and they can fork it. And in the end, is I think it's good. This is the way of the life. This is the way that it must go. I always like to put things together and make one product better, but business does not always work like that, as you understand. So, but for me personally, I just use Terraform, and so for me, there's not really any changes in my personal capacity or in the clients I use at the moment. Terraform is sufficient, and I use it. And even some people, they still want to use CloudFormation. So then you use CloudFormation. It's all right. They want to use it.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, there are some people. I guess there are many people still using CloudFormation, even if it has these overcomplicated JSON-based things
A
to
beast.
correlate. So, in terms of the lineup of the Hashicorp tools, I guess Terraform is the king, no, in terms of usage and diffusion. And there are a lot of other tools which are being released over the years, like Boundary, for example, or other. How much they are used? What is the Nomad, for example? How is surviving the Kubernetes competition, if it's somehow a competition or competitor to Kubernetes?
Don't think it's so much a competition. Some people like simplicity. And if you buy into Kubernetes, then there's many, many things that go with it. Kubernetes is still very much mostly misunderstood by very many people. On how many developers are actively running Kubernetes on their local host to develop against. Although they are writing microservices, I find from where I go, very many people, and Kubernetes is over a decade old now. It's not something new, but some people have never built a Docker container. Never in their life have built a Docker container. So, in that sense, Nomad is very simplistic, single binary. You can install it. You can install it on any server, whether the server is already running PHP or Python apps. You can just install Nomad next to it and start onboarding stuff onto it. So it's very easy. It's very easy to run Nomad and to onboard applications onto it. And it has actually become quite mature in the last couple of iterations since it's become an enterprise product. You can drop into the pod, exec into it, see the logs. There are some secrets in there. It's got the CNI integrations, very, very nice. And it's quite stable. It's very stable. They've got the autopilot, which manages the upgrades of the nodes, and you can see Amazon has also now gone towards this, and EKS has gone the auto mode. So I would say Nomad has done a lot of nice things, and then so that's Nomad aside. Vault has been very good for secrets management, incredible for secrets management. So, since you can run it in Kubernetes, then you can just access your secrets very easily. And since it can sync the secrets to Azure Key Vault or AWS SSM, it's very nice to have a central place of secrets. So there is these things that can run in separation, in isolation of each other. And then also, what I like about Consul is this service registry. So let's say you have two Kubernetes clusters in different regions, they might not know about each other and the workloads on top of each other. But now, if you put Consul in top of them, now you have knowledge of these workloads running in both of these clusters. So Consul also has a little place somewhere. I mean, it solves a problem somewhere. It solves a problem. And then if you look at Consul, that you can use the what do you call it? You can scrape the metrics with Prometheus, and I'm trying to think of the word. I forgot the English word for it. I'll get to it now. But if you can use Prometheus to scrape the endpoint, and then you can use Alert Manager to get this and pipe to Slack or Teams or something like that, then you have a kind of a very nice health check service registry, which is kind of no config. So I like that. And then Boundary, that is the next version of ngrok. You remember ngrok? Uh,
Sorry, because I heard.
ngrok. Ngrok.
Okay.
Remember ngrok used to open up the
I'm not
tunnels.
sure I know it.
Yes, so this is Boundary is the next iteration of ngrok. And it used to open up tunnels to certain places, and you can access these web
Okay.
interfaces remotely. Well, Boundary is just the next iteration of that, but with the added benefit is that you can do session recording, or you can have aliases, or you can have credential brokering. So the developer never sees the credentials. He just logs onto Boundary and hops onto an alias target, and there he has access to the database or access to SSH, which is really very nice, very, very nice. And then, of course, Packer. Everyone use Packer to build AMIs, to use Ansible lockdown, to do the CIS hardening, to do these things. So I would say Hashicorp has got a lot of tools which are they work very nice together, but they are also very much split apart and can function on their own to do their own thing. Of course, I like Hashicorp. The user community are always very friendly and very accessible, and also very knowledgeable to that. And of course, I mean, Hashicorp is like the bread and our butter. We use the Vagrant since very, very long time ago. And Mitchell Hashimoto, he's been very active and he's now stepped away. But they've all been, even the CEOs or the CTOs was very much active in the developer space of the applications, which I think was quite nice. Very, very nice to see these business leaders being engineers like me and you. It was very much a hero of mine. Mitchell Hashimoto and Arman and Kelsey Hightower, they are also heroes of us, not just like, you know, um, sport heroes. We also have these heroes in our day-to-day basis. So maybe I went a little bit too far into that, but they have so many products that it's just worth to mention them all.
But question is, now that they have somehow stepped away, is the new management keeping all the good tradition of a technical driven product, so to say, which solves real problems rather than
I
following
hear you.
business?
I hear you. And now they are kind of being bought by IBM, which I think is a very good opportunity. I think the marriage between Terraform and Ansible is very, very nice because uh, you can use Ansible. So in what I like about it is if you know HCL and YAML, you can do, I think, 90% of everything. If you know YAML, you can write pipelines, you can write Ansible, you can write Kubernetes manifests, Helm charts, very many things just with YAML. If you know HCL, you can write a lot of Terraform modules and Packer templates and just by saying just one line can, if you have Packer, you can use YAML, you can use PowerShell, you can use Bash, you can bring up an image on all the hyperscalers, GCP, AWS, Azure, and anything, even Vagrant or VirtualBox or VMware. You can build all of these machines. And then with Terraform, of course, you can create GitHub repositories, Cloudflare, DNS zones, AWS resources, GCP, Azure, all of these things, CDNs. The list is limitless. You can even run a bash script to get your IP address, inject this into a security group. So what I'm saying is that just by using two languages, the HCL and YAML, you can really accomplish a lot of things. You can really accomplish a lot of things. I mean, if you think back in the day, things were difficult back in the day. You had to procure servers, do the RAID yourself, maintain these servers, pay them, order them, log into them remotely, configure them, maintain them. Where now it's very much, you know, if the thing doesn't work, you just throw it away and bring up a new one. It's very, very, it's amazing where we are living in today's life. It's incredible how much it's changed.
Yeah, indeed. Our life in some way is much easier. On the other ways, or these levels of abstractions and complexities, somehow, yeah, we try to cover them with a YAML, but at the end, there is a lot of things happening behind, and when things
Behind the
don't work,
scenes.
it's always a problem.
Yes.
Um, so, HashiCube.com, I see that domain name in your title in the header. Can you explain and tell us what is HashiCube for the few who don't know it?
Certainly, it's a DevOps lab that helped me to not only learn new technologies like Vault and Nomad and Kubernetes. Because remember, one time I also knew nothing about Kubernetes. And so then I started with HashiCube. And first, HashiCube was a Vagrant machine. But with the advances and the ARM templates, not the ARM templates, the ARM architecture of Apple Mac, I could no longer run Vagrant. So I had to make a Docker. So now it is still you can still run HashiCube using Vagrant in a Docker, but you can also run HashiCube in GitHub code spaces. And in essence, HashiCube is just a Docker container that, as its init, its entry point is systemd, and inside of this Docker container, we run a Docker daemon, which then enables us to run Nomad and Minikube inside of this Docker container and run Traffic on both and see what is the differences. And we can use Waypoint to deploy a Node.js application onto Nomad or deploy Node.js onto Minikube in the Docker container. And if we use GitHub code spaces, we can access this from the web. Now, where it becomes really helpful is if I'm writing, let's say I'm writing Vault policies, then I can bring up HashiCube, bring up Vault, go to the port section in the GitHub code spaces, right click on my port 8200 and say make public. And now I can export my token in my GitHub Actions pipeline, and I can access this vault. But I have no compute behind it. I don't need EC2. I don't need nothing. I just have GitHub code spaces. So there's been sometimes as a consultant when I needed Jenkins, and my client wanted Jenkins to run Terraform and use Terraform Cloud to deploy some infrastructure onto AWS, GCP, and whatever. But I don't have a Jenkins. And even if I install Jenkins locally, I can't make this thing get webhooks from the cloud. But using HashiCube, I can run whatever I want. I can run Ansible Tower. I can run Jenkins. I can run Argo CD, Terraform, Nomad, Minikube, whatever I want. I can run in HashiCube, and it's more for me to just quickly drop in and run something, but also for other people to learn how DevOps work. Because what I see is some students, they study and they have never used DevOps. So they are book smart. They understand what DevOps is, but if you ask them to create a CI/CD pipeline, the blocker is there. They've never done the CI/CD pipeline, and so HashiCube can now help them to, well, if you want to see what Vault is and how Vault can help you dynamically manage credentials of MySQL or Postgres or MS SQL, here is the Vault. Here's a tutorial. You can run it. If you want to use Jenkins and you want to run Terraform CLI with a backend that points to Terraform Cloud, you can do that. If you want to run DBT, the data build tool with Postgres, you can do that with HashiCube or Apache Airflow, and GitLab. You can put all of these little integrations in a Docker container, and you can run it locally or you can run it in GitHub code spaces. And so I suppose I went a little bit more too much, but this is what HashiCube is. Initially, it was just to see what Hashicorp products is, but eventually you want to integrate. You want to you see how Vault is running, but how is Vault really running? How does it integrate with MySQL? And so it became a bit of a Frankenstein, maybe I can put it like that.
That's cool. So you see it mostly as a sort of learning and practicing tool, or you see also some possible other use case, or you have seen in the real world, like testing, more other use cases which go beyond the learning and practicing tool.
Very much. So at first, for me, it was, it's a lab that is free. You can just run Vault. And it's also a lab that if you put a license in there, you can run enterprise software of enterprise versions of HashiCorp. But you can also integrate this into your pipelines because fundamentally, I very much believe I think if you boil it down, there is a dev environment which is on your laptop where the developer codes or the engineer, the DevOps engineer. And then we have non-prod, and non-prod could be dev in the cloud or UAT or PRs or branches. And then there is prod. So all of these life cycles needs all of these environments needs their own life cycles. And very much I think nowadays, dev is very much the life cycle is not as mature as it should be. So what you sometimes get is that people can only test stuff once they have committed. And to a certain aspect, to me, that is limiting because you have to commit and people are worried that other people will see the code that they are committing. And so it is, for me, it's a little bit limiting. Whereas if you have your own dev environment and you can run your own Helm chart and you can do your own kubectl apply or, run your own commands, I think that is better. That is better for people to learn and to progress quicker. So I definitely think there's not just the learning journey, but also practicing this and having this as a kind of a QA in your pipelines to test your vault policies, to test your Terraform. And, HashiCube, the dev container, is just one part of it. The other part of it is pre-commit. If you are not using pre-commit at the moment and you are not using dev containers, I would want to know why. Why are you not using pre-commit and why are you not using dev containers? Because that makes everyone's life easier. Yeah, onboarding is so much quicker. Upgrading versions is so much quicker. Getting the same versions for everyone is so much quicker. Stopping people from committing and making your PRs cleaner, and so it's kind of like I think it goes closer and closer and closer to a center of excellence. Is what I'm thinking where this thing is going, is and where this is really helping, you know.
Indeed. So it's incredible the things that you can do. By the way, this HashiCube is so cool. I mean, maybe we will do really a tech deep dive into the tool because it's worth a dedicated session
I would
if
love
manage
that.
to solve. We will do that.
I would love that. It was mind blowing for me to see System D in a container, and it's very much an anti pattern. A container is supposed to be
Definitely, but
stateless. It, it is an anti-pattern, but it is for your DevOps lab. And so it is and it is actually, this brings me to the topic at hand. It says abnormal DevOps iteration. So I'm not native English speaker. I Google what is the meaning of abnormal. Meaning of abnormal is deviating from what is normal or usually typically in a way that is undesirable or worrying. I think already, this is maybe the perfect forum to talk about things that are worrying or undesirable. It was very funny to me to
indeed.
to Google this meaning of abnormal.
Yeah, definitely you are in the on topic with this. But I do agree. I do agree on the whole thing about also system in a container. Why not if the use case may benefit from it. In this case, the use case is quite clear. But I guess anyone has used HashiCube in some production thing, or doesn't make any sense at all?
So, yes, actually, there is a colleague of mine, Adriana Vilela, and she is from Canada, and she is on the Open Telemetry panel. So she used HashiCube to run Kubernetes in Nomad. So she used the K0s Docker container to run in Nomad. And it is the opposite of what Kelsey Hightower did. Kelsey ran Nomad in Kubernetes. And so I don't know if you can call this production really. It's probably not production. But people do really try some, use it in fascinating ways. They really use it in fascinating ways. And yeah, so that's the one subject that came to mind.
Yeah, I guess we are both old enough to still be somehow surprised by all these hybrid things, which virtualization. I mean, we were in a time where there were just physical computers, and when the first virtual machine started up, it was some kind of magic thing happening. Now this is so normal, and we have this kind of hybrid things, layers of hybrid systems inside systems, which never stops to amaze me in some way.
It really is incredible. I mean, I think it was, when I was mind blown is, I think somewhere around 2008, I discovered Zen virtualization, and Gluster FS. And I had Gluster FS on two of these machines with Zen running a bunch of VMs. And I could go to the one server and switch it off while I am still logged into the server. And right there, my mind was absolutely blown. Back then I discovered Puppet. So Puppet could configure, I could use PXE boot to run this image for me, and Puppet would kick off from my laptop, configure these two machines, install Zen, reboot, start bringing down images, and it was quite mind blowing if you think of where we have come from. We come from a world of very much, I mean, I started off with Red Hat 6.2 in 2000, and then I discovered, Gen 2. Afterwards, I went on to Gen 2. Of course, there was Slackware and SUSE in front of that. Gen 2 was incredibly amazing to me. I love Gen 2. It was so fast. It was mind blowing. Portage and Emerge was just blew my mind. And KDE with, the wobbly windows, and I forgot what they called it. It was just incredible for me. But it was a different world, and I suppose nowadays, if you talk to people about that, they wouldn't even like it. It's meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless because nowadays, who cares what you were using, whether it's Slackware or whatever. It's absolutely meaningless nowadays. There is just VMs, but in some kind of a sense, like not many people understand that Docker networking use IP tables. There is still very much of this old technology that is underlying to this new thing. It's like it's incredible. So, in that sense,
Yeah,
if
there
you
is a
think,
kernel, a Linux kernel behind. TCP is TCP in some way, and the IP network protocols are still there. So this brings me to the next question, which is some obvious thing in these days. From your perspective, how the infrastructures are going to evolve in the next years? We have seen a lot of things happening in the last years, but What's next?
Well, I think that things are going to move very fast now. If you ever seen the Windsurf IDE and you see these AI that can code everything for you, and you can ask any question, how can I get access to ECR with service connection in a zero DevOps pipeline? And these things really go into depth and they keep the context. So you can say, let me go away and test this. And then you can come back and say, oh, it's still not working really. I get this problem and whatever. And the AI is talking to you. And so things are very much going to evolve. What I think is that uh, things are going to become more boxes like Toyotas. You can have a Toyota with bigger wheels, but yeah, you cannot have pink Toyota. You don't have a pink Toyota. You have a black Toyota, you have a gray Toyota, you have a pearl white Toyota, you have a white Toyota, but no pink Toyota. If you want pink Toyota, you must go and wrap it. And I think that's where things are going towards now. You can have anything you want, but unless it's these colors. And so what I think some of the things will iterate quicker. You cannot no longer run MySQL 5.6. You can no longer run PHP 5 or something like that. It's going to become very much latest versions, two of them that they will support, or you can only deploy an auto-scaling group on these selected operating systems. I still think it's very difficult to replace people. I mean, you still get trains, you still get train drivers, people that ride trains, that are train drivers. Like, it's not as easy to get rid of humans as people would say it's going to be. AI will replace everyone. No, it won't. Maybe in some time you still get cleaners who clean streets, and those things are easy to automate, but yet there are still humans there. And I think that it's not quite there. I think humans will always have a place. you know I think AI will just come in and help people, or become like a I think what I do see a problem though is, and this is where, and you can tell me if you thought about this. What I'm worried about is that students, young people now, who cannot yet code, who cannot yet troubleshoot, are going to ask AI to do something. AI will do it to them, give them the code. They will think this AI knows better. They will deploy it. Now, when the boss asks them for a new feature, they have no other choice but to ask the AI, and AI will give them any code, and they are not experienced enough to code review this. Even to me, I was thinking that, like driver's license, you cannot use AI unless you have already learned or done something. I'm not sure what is going to happen there. If I just look how the videos is taking the people's attention, taking their time, then I'm not sure whether we are quite capable and responsible enough to let AI do the work for us. You know, we will. I think maybe in my mind, I will think that some people will think that the AI is better, that they will feel less self confident. There are some aspects there which I'm not sure whether we've quite clearly thought this through and seen where it is going to go to. But I do know it's going to happen fast, and I do know that if you haven't yet built a Docker container or used Kubernetes, you don't want to see what is coming next. You definitely don't
Indeed.
want to see what is coming
Uh,
next.
what is that? Yeah, I guess more machines will becoming clever and less human will become. The more machines are intelligent, and more humans will require to have intelligence, and so that's in the long term could be a problem because we will have everything done for us. and maybe not the means to understand if what is done is done in the right way.
Yeah, but at least they
We will
can
see. We
free
will
us up.
see.
Unless they can free us up and leave us to use our creativity. What I think the best thing is that AI should do is do the work for us and let us use our creativity. You know, uh, I think always humans have a beautiful way of imagining and dreaming up new ways of doing things. And if we can somehow find a synergy with these two things, it would be really beautiful. It would be really nice.
Yes, but you know what? There was a time where they were saying artificial intelligence will help people in doing repetitive tasks and leave us the creative part of things. And now I see machines doing wonderful, for example, look at the graphics
Creative.
background.
Yes.
Wonderful things, creative things, many times much better, at least in terms of ratio between times and the result, incredibly better than most of the humans can do. And so I wonder, are we really sure that the creative activities will be left to humans? Because I feel like uh, AI are creative in themselves in terms of remastering all the data they've learned and easily putting out wonderful things. And I don't even believe that the idea that they don't have the human warmness, no, the health inside, because I've seen texts, videos, musics, graphics made by AIs, which have still the power to give emotions. So if they are
Yes.
able to do this, what is left for us to do in some way? Uh,
It's
I
very
don't
much
know. I don't
going
know.
to be interesting. It's a very interesting time we are going into. It's a very interesting time. I can't wait to see where it's going to go. I'm very excited about, how we can improve the planet and become this golden age. I don't know if you've ever read about the Kali Yuga, which is one of the Kalis, which is one of the ages we are in now. The Kali Yuga is the age of pressing buttons and where people are more concerned with themselves. And so after the Kali Yuga comes the Golden Age. And I do think that, maybe we are going into the Golden Age. Sure, it is new. I remember when I started driving a car, it was manual gear shift, and pulling away was not always very smooth. I mean, in the beginning, it was never smooth. It was, and you only get to drive a little bit better as time goes on. But you know it's interesting to see where this is all going. It's very interesting to see where this is
Yeah,
all
no,
going.
it's definitely interesting. I'm not so sure personally if it will be wonderful and full of the promises which we expect. I feel like the same, internet itself was supposed to bring a lot of a new world of communication, information, sharing, and everything. It has done that. It has done also a lot of other things which are not so nice. And I feel like the same will happen for AI, the good and the bad and the evil all together, and in a much, a multiplied way. So this exponential thing will be more and more happening also for the AI in the good and the bad.
I think
And
it's how
that's,
human I think
yeah.
it's how human nature. As humans, you want to eat nice food until you get overweight, and then you want to go and train to lose weight and to look better or to look after your health. As humans, we tend to indulge sometimes a little bit too much. We tend to complain when things become too good. I do think it is the human nature in all of this, but as always, as humans, when things, we have a way of self-correcting, of trying to get back to a better state. And I suppose I'm a hopeless romantic and I'm forever trying to just remain positive. And I see us that we will indulge in this AI and have too much to eat of this AI. And then we will say, oh, I must go back to the gym, look after my body. I must eat healthy. I smoke too much of this AI. Let me just, smoke a little bit less of this AI and see how this is going. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is we should trust the process. Trust the process. We as humans we have the ability to self-correct. We could have destroyed ourselves, our civilization, many many times over. If you think of the Cold War with all the nuclear bombs, that was just at the button's edge. If someone presses a button, poof, the whole world is gone. Or the hole in the ozone layer with the CFCs, and we somehow discovered this also with the global warming or the climate change. We realized that where we are going is not sustainable, and perhaps this will jeopardize our future. And so I suppose in the end, I'm going to trust that, we will kind of get there. I think we will get there. I think so.
Okay, so you are on the optimistic side, and that's
I'm
fine.
on
That's good.
I'm on the optimistic side.
So, yeah, there is a question I always do in these sessions: is shall I any name of people who I should invite to this podcast because you think they are quite worth listening to? Any
I would
suggestion you may
Yes,
provide?
I would definitely like to nominate some people that come to mind, heroes of mine, people that have been instrumental in where we are today. Of course, names like Mark Shuttleworth. He created Ubuntu and Canonical, and he's a very much been consistent in his approach, and Ubuntu has always been there. Guys like Kelsey Hightower, who's been his videos I looked from back in the day was absolutely inspiring. I mean, he was at Puppet and then at New Relic and Google, and his talks were always inspiring. Of course, Mitchell Hashimoto, who is just incredibly brilliant, such a you know such a hero. And Armin Dadgar, of course, he was charismatic when he talks, but very very clever in what they do. Some of those people I would definitely, if you could get them on this show, it would be incredibly um, interesting to hear their thoughts and the questions you get to ask them, and to leave their thinking and legacy on. They should be on podcast every single day of their life, because these are the things that the kids must listen to, what these people thought. Maybe if you can get Elon Musk on here, it would also be great to hear Elon Musk. So if you can kind of manage that, it would be absolutely incredible. So those are the kind of names that just quickly popped into my head.
Okay. Yeah, let's shoot at the moon. Let's see what happens.
shoot, shoot at the go for Mars. If you go for Mars, you can always land on the moon. If you go to the moon, you have to land on the Earth.
Indeed.
You know. But I mean, Alessandro,
Uh,
we've worked together so long ago. I mean, 10 years ago, master of puppet. I learned so much from you, and actually to be on your show over here is just incredibly uh, interesting, and I'm so grateful to see you. And by the way, you look great. You look 10 years younger. What is your secret? Can you tell me your secret?
no, I don't think. Maybe there is some AI retouching. Maybe you are not watching on me, but some fake.
Some
Well,
sentient
thanks.
being.
Thanks. It has been wonderful and to get in touch with you. And well, stay connected, and we will probably record something more soon.
I would love that. Have a wonderful weekend. All the best to you in 2025. It was so fantastic to see you. And, if I may just say something in closing, it's not always that you can just sit with friends and geek out. My one colleague, my friend Adriana Vilela, she calls it geeking out. You just get to geek out with your friends. And it's very rare that you can just sit with someone and talk about Kubernetes or talk about AI. In my day to day, my friends, not my friends, they do not the same as me. We have to talk about other things. And so it's also very much rewarding to be able to talk about these very high level topics and just imagine and think and talk about where things are going and what is going to happen. And so for that, I mean, it's been very much enjoyable. Really, it's been so enjoyable. So truly, thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, same here, definitely. All the best, Rihanna, and see you soon.
Ciao.
Abnormal DevOps iterations.